What's going on, shopVOX universe? This is Peter Karunas with shopVOX, bringing you a very interesting topic of today's video here. We're going to be talking about sign shop sales. More specifically, has the industry changed in regards to sales? Stay tuned and let's talk about it. So sales. First and foremost, if you are in the sign business, you know, obviously, that your business revolves around a pipeline of sales, of future sales, more specifically. Many sign shops out there have a sales force, or at least a salesperson, that goes out and gets business. They have leads, they go and service those leads. But is there a shift? Is there a shift that's happening right before our eyes where that person, that outside sales force, that salesperson is no longer a salesperson? It's an interesting thought, don't you think? Let me kind of talk to you a little bit about this. Your phone rings. Your phone rings and the person on the other end of it is a business owner in your local community, and they're asking you for a quote. They're asking you for a price on a sign or a price on some graphics, whatever the case may be. What typically here is your next step in your sales pipeline, your sales process? Is it to book an appointment with your salesperson? Is it to schedule a survey with your surveyor? Is it for your owner, the owner, to get on the phone and ask questions so that they can do a quote over the phone? There are many different tactics out there. Many different shops use different procedures and processes in their own process. Discussing that process is not what we're going to discuss here. It's more what's happening in the customer's eyes is what we're going to discuss here. I was having dinner with a sign shop owner here in Long Island, and then later a different sign shop owner. I had some lunch with them a couple of days later, and this topic came up in both cases where I brought it up and I said, what do you see out there? How is this shifting? Is this shifting? You know, and this is what it's shifting towards. What is it shifting towards? Is the salesperson's responsibility to sell a job shifting into a customer service role / project management role? Which I found to be very resounding, because both sign shop owners, independent sign shop owners, said that their sales system, that their sales force wins the deal. 50% of the deal gets won when they're just showing adequate customer service. When they're telling the customer that they'll be there, they show up on time. They show up prepared. They show up with samples. They are consultative. They're discussing different options. They're discussing different strategies. They're working with the designer to create a mock-up and then basically just passing that over to the customer once it's ready. They're providing a service that is what I consider above the line, but yet we're not talking about your traditional sales strategy, right? There's no presentation that's happening. There's no boardroom meeting where you're making a case for that company to use you and your business. Now, certainly that could be the case for some of you that are really going after bigger fish, but for us, everyday sign shop owners, is it really that important to have a salesperson or a person that's really great at customer service and that's dedicated to that first appointment, that first touch point, that's going to provide the knowledge of the industry? You know, talking about vendors and timelines and sign types and going through samples and colors and material options as well. I mean, that's not sales. That's just being knowledgeable in our craft and letting the customer inform us of what they're looking for. At that point, it creates an estimate. Yes, now there's an estimate here, and there's a process behind that. There's a sales process behind that. That estimate gets conveyed over to the customer. You can send that estimate through shopVOX, okay? You can send it with all the imagery, the samples, the assets, the digital assets. You could do that with shopVOX. But, it's interesting that then becomes the hardest part. One of the interesting things that this sign shop owner had lunch with said was that 60% of the deal is done by answering the phone, being courteous, not over-promising and under-delivering. And when you are not going to fulfill your promise, that you still live above the line and say things like, I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm not going to be able to get there between 12, but can we do this at 12:30 or 1 o'clock? I'm sorry, ma'am, that item is out of stock. It's out of my control, but I do have this option for you as well. Again, that's really more consultative than anything else. It's living above the line here with your customer service. Not necessarily selling anything. You're not forcing something down somebody's throat. They want to buy. The customer now has shifted to wanting to buy. This is a need purchase. So your proposal is just a sheet of paper with a number on it. What comes behind the proposal is what the customer needs to see in your sales process. Now, I say sales process here for the terminology, but in your process of winning a job, the customer needs to see here what exactly is happening with your type of company. Are you showing up on time? Are you giving out a free mock-up? Are you providing samples? Are you providing that level of follow-up and customer service and interaction that keeps them engaged and actually feeling comfortable with wanting to work for you? Again, this area is what this one sign shop owner said is where the deal is won. It's not won in the price negotiation. It's won in all of those other elements where the customer needs to kind of get an insight into what it's going to be like to work with you. So I ask you this, is this what you're seeing out there? Is this what you're seeing on a day-to-day basis within your company? Is there a shift in how sales are working? Now, you're not cold calling anymore. You're not cold calling and making those appointments. We stopped doing that years ago. Many of you still have a salesperson that goes out in the field and interacts with new business owners and interacts with the community. But should that be their job or should that be the owner's job? Should the owner be networking his own business? It is his business after all, and then providing those leads to someone that's going to act upon them. Not sell them, but work those leads. Be like an account manager. This is I guess that's the best way to sum it up is the sales manager's job becoming obsolete in our industry and becoming an account manager job? When I heard this, I started thinking to myself, if you build a bigger engine, if you're generating a lot of marketing leads or MQLs through your funnel, we talked about that funnel in one of our older videos, is creating that funnel on your website. Are you generating enough leads in that funnel that the person that's servicing and acting upon those leads is actually closing accounts and generating those relationships that, maybe they bought a $200 item, maybe they bought a $20,000 item, but is that person a salesperson? Or are they just showing you the customer? Are they just showing the customer what it's like to be a customer with your sign shop? I really liked where this conversation was going with these two individuals. And what really made me start thinking about it was, is this a segment of the industry that's shifting, or is it due in large part to the size of their shop? I think it's the size of their shop here that makes the biggest difference. it's not coincidence that both of these sign shop owners were doing a little less than $500,000 a year gross sales. So they have to be resourceful. They cannot maybe afford to hire a full-time salaried salesperson. So their account manager, their project manager who handles production and design and kind of manages that whole team is the person that goes out and is that first touch point with the customer. And they do that, well, because it's a need, and they're doing it out of necessity because they can't afford to hire that person. But when you're doing plus 1 million in sales, does that person's role enter into the equation? Now that salesperson's role enters into that equation. And I believe the answer to that is yes. I believe there's still room in this industry for a salesperson or sales force. I would highly recommend getting your shop set up within the sales dynamic as quickly as possible, because I do feel that once you add that element to your shop, it's going to add a lot of potential lead flow. It's going to add a lot of potential growth there for your business. So certainly, in my opinion, I don't think it's completely 100% shifted over to account managers, replacing sales managers. But I do think that there is an opportunity for your shop to grow from this tier in gross sales to this tier in gross sales by having that another extension arm, another arm to your hub, if you will. And that arm to that hub is your sales force, your outside sales force, your sales managers, your salespeople, bringing in leads, making contacts, setting appointments, and generating a pipeline here of interest, because there's always people out there that want something, that need something, that want to hear somebody's opinion on how to make a sign look better or how to bring more attention to their business. So there's always going to be a need for what we're doing here. So in my opinion, the shift is not quite there yet, but it is a shift that I do see is accurate, and we'll see. We'll see where this goes in the next several years. But for right now, if you're sub 500,000, you might want to consider hiring that one person to be your account manager who might do your surveys and orchestrate with your project manager, your production department, your design department, and be that centralized person in communications between everybody. And then when you grow past that level, that's when you're going to think about a sales manager, a sales force being added to your team, because their job is going to be business development, right? Generating more leads, going to those networking events, going to those local municipality events, driving by night watch leads, things like that. That's going to generate another sort of lead that's going to add to your sales pipeline. So thank you so much for watching. This is Peter from shopVOX. I really like this video. I really like this topic. This is one of my favorite topics. I was loving talking to these two individuals. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking to me a little bit about it. I really do appreciate it, and you guys know who you are. So listen, thank you so much. Leave a comment below. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and like always, everybody, stay positive out there.